And this is Jen Gray, and welcome to Be Genuine Podcast. It is my heart that by the end of this episode, you believe that your story matters and that your authenticity is your superpower. Welcome to the stage, Jen Gray. Hey friends, we are going to take a detour from our normal show, and I am super excited to share with you an episode I was recently on with my friend Jimmy Allen with the Better Human podcast. And I love this conversation, so I wanted to share it on my platform as well. Make sure you are following him on all of the places. He is a powerhouse in the ClickFunnels space, a genius in business building, and I am so excited for his new mission of just being better humans and what that looks like in this crazy business world. So you guys give him a follow and keep listening.
Any initial thoughts or reactions to that?
Yeah, my thoughts are I love this. I love that you're putting the humanness back into business. I think that's a huge shift in where culture is going, and I'm all about it because I think before it was like this separation of business life, personal life, and then to actually understand, which is my message, right? Our authenticity is ultimately what builds a life that we're proud of. And so I love that you're talking about the humanness of how we're giving back, how we're becoming the most elevated versions of ourselves so that we get to where we're headed. So I'm super pumped for you. Like, what a mission.
I love it. Okay, cool. So you see it. You're on board. I love that.
Totally.
Jen Gray, welcome to the podcast. I thank you so much for agreeing to be on and coming and hanging out with me. I'm sorry we couldn't do this in person. I'm still a little like under the weather. I just got back from Las Vegas and I was attending this incredible like rock show of an event called Funnel Hacking Live, and it's this event that like this software company ClickFunnels puts on, and it's just like all the greatest marketers in the world, all the greatest entrepreneurs in the world, and they all get together and we have a giant party, and we all share like our knowledge. We all like knowledge dump on each other, and like it's so amazing. It was like a transformational
Love
thing.
it.
But unfortunately, because it was the last one, I was like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play all out. I'm gonna like attend every session. I'm gonna go out to the networking events at night. I'm gonna get no sleep. I'm gonna all the connections. And so I got back home and I was like, I'm very sick, very tired.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's great because we're doing a podcast now and it actually gave me the time to like sit down and think and plan and act like put some action into play. And so we get to talk now and we get to do like share amazing stuff and amazing stories because of all that. So welcome
Love
to the
it.
show. Thank you for being on here. Um, I want to do a thing here at the very beginning, just like it's really quick. It's just basically like who, what, where, when, why, how, kind of like, adverb style. So
Yeah,
who you are, you're Jen Gray, right?
I am.
And so
Yes.
people have been introduced to you kind of like either locally in person because like we're both in the like in the North Georgia area, but I
Yep.
also see that like you've been publishing a podcast and like publishing a lot of content over the last 4 years or so. What
Mhm.
started all of your like your publishing journey?
Great question. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super pumped to be on here and to you're so aligned and so like-minded, and I'm so pumped for the content that you are putting out into the world, and the fact that I get to play a small part is a huge honor. Yeah, so I started by building a business online. I had gotten connected with Jessie Lee Ward. She was a phenomenal business mentor, coach, like the leader in the network marketing space, and she did it all through social media. So I wasn't in her company or anything like that, but I just fell in love with her authenticity. I, for the first time in my life, saw someone that was 100% just themselves making a lot of money, and they were doing it in a way that honored like who they were to the core. And because before, to me, like success looked like some dude on a stage with a tie and a coat and three-piece suit that I just didn't fit with who I was, right? And so I had this in my mind, what that looked like. And so she kind of busted through those walls. So it all started there. It started by building a business. So then I was in insurance, which I still am, but that's kind of like the back burner. But I'm licensed. And so I did it through social media and really just saw the power of being able to connect with people outside of the people who are right here in my space. And then fast forward to 2023, my life took some crazy twists and turns and ended up in a crazy dumpster fire of a situation. And previously, I had spoken on stages and I had led massive rooms of people in the context of the church. And unfortunately, going through a divorce in 2019 shifted all of that. And it took away my job, my platform, my community, but it never got rid of the passion in me to add value to people and to share, give people hope essentially. And so in 2023 I started a podcast because I didn't have a
Right.
platform necessarily to speak on, but what I saw was the opportunity to build my own platform via a podcast, through to be able to impact other people. So that's how it started. And I just said, hey, I'm super vulnerable. I'm not going to have this podcast. It's going to show you how to build some massive business really fast. That's not my journey yet. But what I am is a single mom of four who is rebuilding her life in a way that I'm proud of. And I want to talk about the mindset of that and how we reframe our story and all of those components and really give other people hope that we get one life to live and let's live it to our fullest. And yeah, so that began my journey, really, as far as the podcast goes in 2023. And then as you alluded to, I revamped and have restarted and gained a season two here in 2025.
Wow. Holy cow. Okay. I have so many, like literally just like that snippet right there. Like I have so many thoughts about that. But I love finding like what initially got people to like trip into entrepreneurship, or like trip into saying yes
Hmm.
to their dreams or their passions, or like whatever that outcome is that they want for their life. I love finding that like tipping point or that tripping moment.
Hmm.
And what I really appreciated out of that is like you looked around and you saw success was like a dude on a stage wearing a tie, and it's like, okay, like plants reproduce after their own kind, or like seeds reproduce after their own kind, right? And like I
Right.
look at you now, and you didn't reproduce as someone in a tie on a stage. Like you're like bold, you're loud, you're audacious, so you're big, you're powerful, like
Mhm.
you're pink, right? And it's like,
Right.
wow, okay, so what was it you saw that like and remind me your mentor's name?
Jesse Lee Ward.
Jesse Lee Ward. So
Yes.
Jesse Lee Ward was out doing this like this success thing, but she didn't look like the dudes in the suits. She looked like someone who was like her own authentic,
Right. Uh-huh.
genuine, purpose-filled self. So
Yep.
you really resonated with that as opposed to like, I mean, you can literally go around like Wall Street, or like, I mean, there's so many different ways to like make money, build a business, and grow
100%.
and
Exactly.
personally develop.
Yeah.
But you made a like a concerted effort to be like, no, my terms, my way. And you looked at
Hmm.
like your mentor, and you were basically like, okay, that's it. Like I agree with that. That aligns with me. Got peace about it, and
Right.
then you ran with it.
Yeah. Well, and for the first time, I was in the mentality that if we add value to people, then we're supposed to do that for free. And we're just supposed to, give what we have. And that I did that for a lot of years. And that was kind of the context of what that looked like. So I never thought that coaching or podcasting or speaking could bring in money, just to be straight up honest with you. Like I
Right.
didn't know that those were associated. So to find someone else, I'm like, okay, I I have a way too. Like I have a pathway because I'm sure as heck not going to fit in on Wall Street, like you just said. Like that's not my people. That's not my path. Like what's funny is I actually started in college as a government major because I wanted to be a senator, and so I wanted to impact people. And at that point, that's what I thought it was going to be. And Jimmy, I literally lasted one government class, and I'm like, which one of these is not like the other? Like there is no way. Like these are my people. And again, so I
Yeah,
never saw myself in
I
success until then.
literally am like, dude, I wonder if you were even on the right path, because I don't even know if there's a senator that like studied government, you know?
Right? There's that too, right? Like
Like let's just
I
be
was just like,
honest.
yes, like give me a way to impact. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
It's
So
funny.
um I did some digging. Some people call it
Okay.
digging, some people call it research, other people call it stalking. It just kind of depends on like what lens you put it through. Uh,
Right.
Jen, I went all the way back to October, I think it was October 2nd, 2020. It was one of the earliest videos that I actually saw you
Oh, wow.
put out, and it was this
Mm,
discussion of you having like a shift in attitude and like a shift in position
mm,
toward being home and like being stuck in COVID. It was like, ugh, like COVID, like all this stuff. But finally, like by the time October comes around, like your kids are digitally learning, you're at
hmm
home with them all the time. You have like your proximity to your family, but you
hmm
also like have a unique opportunity to also like work and go out and like exactly what you said, add value out to the marketplace, add value to people who are looking to increase their lives.
hmm
That video was a conversation around pivoting, and you
hmm
you basically like that launched a journey into you starting to publish and publish and publish. And like I looked at it and I was like, okay, your frequency and your cadence like definitely increased so much. Do you think that you would
hmm
have done this? Like you would be like in the shoes you're in today and where you're at if it wasn't for a global pandemic? Or did the global pandemic literally spike you, like propel you into being who you are today?
That is a very interesting question. I would say I don't know that I ever would have looked at social media as a way to build business had COVID not happened. I did jump into this other network marketing team, which is how I was a part of like GoPro with Eric Worre,
Yeah,
and that's
Eric
how I
Worre,
found
yeah.
Jesse Lee.
Yeah.
And so when I saw all this, that wasn't, the building on social wasn't really even a thing before then. So that's interesting concept. I don't I don't think in my journey 100% I would have never ever thought of doing that. And the I think I would have been stuck into the people that are here, and that's my reach. But that totally opened my eyes to, oh my word, I'm watching this woman build a massive business in all of these countries from her home in a t-shirt because she's passionate about it. And
Yeah.
so yeah, COVID, I that's interesting. I think COVID definitely played a role in that.
Okay. So you kind of you hinted at it, but what what do you think that your reality would look like if you didn't decide to like film that
Mm,
first like pivot video about like
right.
changing your like changing your position and your attitude and perspective and like start publishing videos, like where do you think your life would be at otherwise?
That's really interesting. So there's a lot of like the balance of personal and business. So that feels like a loaded question, but I'm even just thinking about where I was in 2020, and honestly, that was like the network marketing was more of just like a this kind of like whim thing, but it actually introduced me to personal development. And so I think
Mm,
even more so than the business opportunity, it was for the first time in my life that I dove into personal development. Like, Jimmy, I was one of those people that was like Cliff Notes was the way I survived high school. Like, I didn't read, I didn't want to read
me
or
too.
anything. And
Oh yeah.
then yeah,
Oh yeah.
like it almost was like a pride. It was like this badge of honor. Like, I don't read, but then I was introduced to a book by one of the leaders, and it was The Magic of Thinking Big. And that book like completely transition my way of thinking. And so I think both, and I think that between COVID and using then the social media, whole building business, and then the personal development side of things, I think what that did was open my eyes to the fact that there are other opportunities. So instead of pivoting by finding a new 9 to 5, my pivot was how then can I utilize the resources like social media and podcasting and building a business virtually. How can I do that even if it requires me to do things different? And if I've because then I was doing network marketing, and then I switched into insurance, and now I'm into speaking, but all of it is the same types of things as far as the way I'm building it, but it's very different business. But I think that opened my mindset to the opportunities are endless when you accept the reality that the world's waiting for what you have to offer.
Oh my gosh. That okay. So what I'm hearing is like you would have been here no matter what. Like despite
Yeah.
2020, despite that first video, it sounds like you would have gotten here no matter what because you had already kind of
hmm
like got the seeds planted and like we're already connected with the right people. They were all already moving in that trajectory. So COVID schmovid, right? Like we're gonna go out and be our most authentic self. I love that. Um, so basically I'm weird about numbers. I don't know if you're weird about
Okay.
numbers, but I'm
I
just
am.
somebody who is like,
Hmm.
I love like being able to like measure stuff like this, or like measure impact or measure reach. And
Mm.
um you you've been publishing since that date. And so I just like jumped into Chat GPT really quickly because I let Chat do a lot of my mental load
Hmm.
capacity nowadays. It's been like
Ditto. Yeah.
1,603 days since that date. Does that feel weird? Can you even like, I can't even
That's
like
very weird. That's a lot
quantify
of days.
1,603
Yeah.
days, and you've been publishing for the majority of them. Did you know
Hmm.
that? I
Yeah,
don't,
that was very intentional. I used to, and that's funny. I've cleaned up my social a lot. There's actually a lot more that got deleted, but yeah, I was doing 3 times a day plus going live twice a day for over 150 days. So
wow.
yeah, I was hardcore
Okay,
as
so
far as social media goes.
with that newly updated information, my numbers are wrong, but I think the idea still like stands in between here. Like, I was looking,
Hmm.
I think you have like an average recording time of like 11 minutes. Some of them are really quick, powerful, punchy, like in your face, like here's the message, like go out and do, be, achieve, become. Uh, Messages, and then some of them are like a little more longer, a little more thought out, like you need to like have the context, go on the journey with me, have the epiphany with me. And
Mm.
so a lot of these like they float around like 11 minutes, and based on like the amount of time that you've published, it was like my number came out to like 300 hours of video, which is
Oh
crazy,
wow.
which is probably more because you said that you cleaned it up and you like got rid of some stuff, but
Yeah.
like still the matter of fact is like you sat
Right.
down and like made the content and put it out there, whether you kept it or deleted it. So like we'll say conservatively somewhere between like 300 to 400 hours of content that you've put out online. How do you feel about that?
Wow. That's insane. That's a lot of time. I mean, I guess it makes sense when you start to divide it out, but yeah, it's crazy to think that before that I never did something, and then after that I've put over 300 hours of content out. I think that's the wow moment in my mind of, oh my goodness, like it completely changed my life. It completely changed what my whole mode of everything became, clearly, because I went from no content to 300 hours
Like,
in
oh,
those
well
couple
over
years. So
300 hours. It's got to be over 300
yeah.
hours. Like, because
Yeah.
I did like a rough average. Like I just like I was
Hmm.
skimming through and I was like, okay, like this is about where she's publishing at. So like it could be more, it could be less, but still like it's probably more. It's probably more than 300 hours, which is crazy. Okay.
Right.
So earlier we were talking about books, right? And you were like, I just did
Yes.
like the Spark Notes through high school. Literally, so did I, except
That's too
for
funny.
Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers.
Uh-huh.
And I'm pretty sure it's in that book that he discussed or like talked about and kind of like popularized the concept of the 10,000 hour rule, that you're not an expert in anything until you've done it for 10,000 hours. And
Right.
it's really interesting because like then I was listening to a different. It was a conversation with the My First Million podcast and Mr. Beast, and Mr. Beast is basically like you're just like if you hit that 10,000th hour on doing something, like you're just getting started. Now you're
Hmm.
actually like getting started doing it, and you can really start to like crank it out and pump it out. So
Right.
for like for publishing, how do you resonate with this idea that like okay, let's say you've done 300 to 400 hours of video and like publishing. Do you think you're going to get to the 10,000th hour?
Okay, here's what I love about that whole fact. First of all, that's why I always say Mel Robbins had a podcast about owning that you're a beginner. And even after 300, I still feel like every time I put a podcast out, I'm still a beginner, which you just proved, Jen, you haven't hit the 10,000 mark. So you are absolutely still a beginner. And I think when we just like accept that and own it, then we just keep going and we're just like this childlike faith of learning. And so not expecting ourselves to have arrived, but just be open to growing and elevating our mindset and becoming a better version of ourselves in this constant growth mindset. So that excites me. I'm like, yes, like I have
Yeah.
so much growing to do. I am still a baby in this. And so to me, it excites me because I'm like, perfect. I feel like I have so much more to learn. So I
It's
do.
really ironic because I was like, dang, like Jen starting season 2 of her podcast. Like, this is getting real. This is getting legit. And I'm like, then I looked at
Yeah.
the numbers and I was like, man, she's done so much. You have done like, okay, 300 to 400 hours of content is like, that's a lot. Some people get to like 1 hour and they're like, oh, so much. Like, oh, it's so hard. And
Right.
they have this like attitude or position toward publishing that's like very much not in alignment with like what you do. Like you are like day in, day out, get the video out, whether it's good
Hmm.
or not, put it out. And it's
Right.
dude, it's amazing. Like, so I'm literally like, oh, she's getting started. Oh, she's so much farther than me. Oh, she's getting started. Holy cow, like she's done this much. And like, dude, I'll tell you what, the last like 48 hours of me like learning more about you and what you do has been
Hmm.
kind of like a up and down journey for me. I'm like, oh man, like
Hmm.
she's done so much. And you're like, I'm obviously I'm a fan over here. Like I'm clapping my hands and and like literally since we sat down for the first time and like
Yeah.
talked and got to know each other, I'm like,
Yeah. Agreed.
you're gonna do it. Like you are absolutely 1000% gonna do it because I saw that like there's uh like vigilance within you
Mm.
and perseverance. And I was like, ah, I'm a fan of Jen Gray, no matter what.
Thank you.
Okay,
I appreciate that. I mean, ditto. Again, yeah, we were very like-minded from the start, so it's
I
always cool
love
to find
that.
people like that.
In the process of me kind of like looking around and doing my quote unquote research, right?
Hmm.
I came across a photo and by the way, if this ends up being like too much, I totally understand. Like we'll just go clip it out and post. Like it's all good.
Yeah, no, we're good. Mhm.
Um, I saw a photo of a tire gauge, and you were leaving
Oh,
a sporting event, and you took a photo of the tire gauge because basically you had ended up getting a flat, and someone helped you out and getting to the store. But you took a photo of the tire gauge because your car
mm,
apparently had several of them, or maybe just like a couple of them. It's something that your dad always made sure that he he made sure that there were tire gauges in your car so that you were always prepared for
mhm.
like whatever came.
Right.
How big of an impact on not just like your life, but like where you are in your business and like your attitude and your position, everything that you're building, how big of an impact would you say that your dad had on what you're doing right now?
That is a really good question. That what's crazy is that of all pictures that you found that one, because that was the day after I had made a huge decision to leave everything behind and restart my whole life with $18 and 4 kids. And that was the night after, and I was at a baseball practice. And so that whole season, my dad passed away in 2022, and he has a crazy journey. When I grew up, he was always reading books. He was always going to seminars, had, tapes and all the things that they had in the 80s and 90s. And I thought he was crazy, to be honest with you, like talk radio all the time and, pre podcasts, all of that. He was like a Cinderella story. He came from nothing, dropped out of high school to help his family, and then ultimately built a general contracting business from the absolute bottom up. And then 2008, 2009 hit. And so I watched my dad build and rebuild until it exploded. My dad lived the last 10 years of his life homeless. And I watched that journey, and I wish I could say we had a great relationship my whole life. But we didn't. He was an alcoholic. He didn't, dealing with the pain and actually the vulnerability of men. That wasn't his culture, right? That wasn't his generation, and so he never had that outlet.
Yeah,
And so it's ironic that you asked that is in 2018 and 2019, when I was going through a divorce. It's interesting when you go through hard times, you can either get jaded or your eyes can be open to people differently. And for me, I started to be betrayed and hurt by different people that I had trusted. And so what it did is it actually opened my heart and my eyes to conversations to my dad to say, I don't know that I understand all of your story. I gave him a space, a couple of years before he passed away, to actually get to be vulnerable and to share. And so then it was like taking all that he taught me that he didn't even know he taught me. So personal development, I went, and it's when he passed away, the only things I wanted were all of his books. And so I got all of his books and I got his journals. And so for me, it's this constant reminder that my dad didn't get to fulfill what ultimately he wanted to fulfill, but he equipped me with learning and opened my eyes to understanding that everybody has a story, and I want to live so different and empathetic, because people could judge people on the streets. And the fact that I had a multiple six-figure earning dad that went to the streets taught me a lot about understanding that if I take the time to listen, I probably have a lot to learn. And so my dad's journey is absolutely a huge catalyst for the way that I live life and for the dreams that I'm chasing, because in some way I feel like I'm chasing dreams that he never got the opportunity to fulfill. Sorry for that long answer, but
Are you kidding
you,
me?
you
No.
I've
Okay.
never been
Well,
asked that before. That was powerful.
I I saw that, and it immediately clicked for me that this is a question that I need to ask.
Okay.
It's selfishly because I'm a new father. I have a 1.5-year-old who just woke up from his nap, and
Nice.
we have another baby on the way.
Hmm.
So I
Exciting.
asked that question obviously because like I want this to go out and help other fathers, but very selfishly for me, I want to know for people who go out and perform and achieve and become something like how big is the father role? Like how imperative is that? And obviously we can all assume like, yeah, it's important. It's like it's really important for a kid to have a dad. Um, but like how does it where's the application of that? Like how like where does it actually like matter? And so
Right.
hearing that like your dad your dad's story ended a little, well, I'll say like prematurely.
For
There
sure. Hmm.
wasn't redemption, like he wasn't able to redeem his own story, but it sounds like you're redeeming his story, like going
Hmm.
out and building everything that like is in your brand. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to sit. I'm gonna like I'll go back and like sit with this for a little while longer, and I'm not like getting anything immediate out of here for
Hmm.
myself.
Yeah.
For, like anything like sometimes you hear a story and you're like, I gotta change this. I gotta change this. And I'm like, "Ah,
Right.
dude, I
Right.
probably will need to sit with this for a while. But like
Yeah.
I asked you the
Well,
question
and I
selfishly
think
for me.
probably that the encouragement as a parent is your kids are watching, right? Like for me,
Yeah.
it was I didn't want to listen to talk radio, and I thought it was horrible. And I was like, why wouldn't you just like jam out to music? And now I'm that person with podcasts, right? Like my kids get in the car
Yeah.
and like, Mom, can we please listen to music? But they're listening and they're learning. And I think that to me is, as a parent, just to remember, even though it may have taken me 30 years to appreciate what my dad did, at my lowest of lows, what I knew is that if my dad could build what he did from what he did, then I could do anything. And that's where one of my favorite Ed Milet quotes is, the biggest form of parent neglect is a parent not chasing after their dreams. Because how on earth do we tell our kids that they can do anything if they don't get to watch mom and dad do everything that they've wanted to do? And that, when I heard that statement, I'm like, right? Like that's one of those life moments that I'm like, wait. This is way bigger than just doing something that I think is cool. Like I'm literally my kids are watching me struggle and build and work like crazy so that one day they're going to understand, hey, if I'm willing to work really hard to follow my passion, anything is possible. And I think that was literally probably the biggest parent's wake up call for me.
Yeah. Right there. You just made it tangible. You just made it like for me, you
Yeah.
just made it like very tangible for me. It's like they're watching. So go, move, do,
Yeah.
achieve, become. I love that. Okay. So I mentioned a minute ago the like your brand, right?
Hmm.
Um, be genuine. First, okay, hang on. Um, I just want to say that I've known a ton of Jennifers in my life. Like I have a sister named
There's a ton of
Jennifer.
us.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is like when you made like the Be Genuine podcast, like that is the first time in my entire life that I've ever seen anyone put that like spin on the word genuine. And I just think it's so clever. Like ever since I saw it, I was like, "Ah, of course, like that it just fits. Like it's so good. It just anyways, I think it's
That's so
very
funny. Well,
clever.
I fought it. I fought it because if you, the first part of the podcast, it was be genuine with a G, be genuine with Jen. And because I was like, I don't want people to be me. Like, I don't want the little robots. I don't want anything. But the more that I jumped into it and the more that the brand started to build, I saw the brand equity. It's memorable. And I wanted people to remember
Yeah.
to be genuine. And so it worked. But I'll tell you, I fought with it because I didn't, I resisted it for a long time. And but yeah, now it fits. And yeah, it's funny that
Why
great
why do
question.
you feel like you didn't want people to be you, or you didn't want like a clone of Jennifer's everywhere?
I felt like it was the antithesis of my message, right? If your authenticity is being all of who you are, then I never wanted. I know some people they do that, right? It's all about like my name on a on a shirt. People are going to buy that, and I didn't want that. I wanted them to find themselves in their own story. And
Mm,
so I was just overthinking it. And I think honestly, in the way I was raised, where we are nothing of our within ourselves, and this whole like belittling of ourselves type thing, and make much of other people, less of us. I think that mentality is something I had to work through, to where I was like, there's no way on earth that people here be genuine because of the brand promise that I provide, that they're worried about whether or not it's all about me or it's all about them. I hope for everything in me that every time somebody comes in contact, they know that my heart is to make their life better. I'm not here to like say, oh, look at me. And so I had to just switch that and be like, just because I put my name in it doesn't mean it's like, oh, look at me. Instead it's like, no, let's just be around this whole idea of authenticity, and this is going to be the clever way to say it, and let's just run with that. So
love it.
it was a personal thing I had to work through for sure.
Um, what does it mean for others, like if they tap into this you have this big idea of being genuine and being
Mm-hmm.
your authentic self. What does that mean for others if they tap into that idea? Like what shifts and what changes for them?
Great question. So let's just rewind actually a little bit. So I don't remember when Gmail first became a thing, but whenever it first became a thing, so I don't know, it was like 2010 ish. It could be a little bit after that. Whenever Gmail came on the scene, I always knew that I wanted to create a space called Be Genuine, and I did it with a G. And the irony of that is I was living a total double life. Like I was being all things to all people, but I was wearing so many masks, and I was speaking a message that was comfortable, but I was hiding a lot of the truth of what I actually was going through. And I felt like that needed to be redeemed, because in 2023, I had this wake up moment in my life where I looked in the mirror and said, Jen, like the legacy that you're leaving right now is not who you are. This is not what you want to do. And what I discovered is actually the hardest parts of my world, and what I had overcome and what I had experienced. Those were the stories that gave people hope. Like they didn't want to hear the success of how I was speaking on stages with 500, in girls every month and all of that. Like that wasn't relatable.
Yeah.
But what was relatable was the overcoming and overcoming and overcoming and leaving what didn't serve me, and stripping away the what I needed to get rid of and all of those things. And so what I want is for people to see that their story is safe and there's a place for their story. And in fact, it's the hard parts of their world that's actually going to impact the people around them. And just imagine if every entrepreneur was honest about their journey and was honest about the fact that, man, I went 3 years and I didn't even have any payout to myself. It was just constantly investing into the business, investing into the business. And we were really honest about the journey that it actually took, and we were genuine with it. Then when someone jumps in and goes all in on a goal, they know what to expect. They don't feel like failures. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm not cut out for this. It's 2 years and I've never made a penny. If we were actually vulnerable and we talked about what it took to get to be successful, other people find hope in that. And then they don't give up. And then they push through, and they're resilient, they're stronger, and then they're using that as the bridge to other people. I believe that vulnerability builds bridges. And the more that you're vulnerable about, just like you're saying, about like just starting something, and the fact that you're taking messy action and just jumping out and doing a podcast, the fact that you own the fact that you're a beginner, Jimmy, means that other people are going to get to own that, and they're going to have belief that they can do it too. But if we come on and act like it's all perfect and it's all easy and there's never tech glitches and everything is awesome and I never say or I never have a pause or I never lose my train of thought, then when people do that, they're like, oh my goodness, I'm a failure. I'm not cut out for this. So our
Uh,
vulnerability is what builds the bridges and builds people up all around us.
it's really interesting. So I love mentioned earlier. I'm like, I love numbers. I also love like the meaning of words, and then I love it when two opposites are true at the same time. Like paradoxes are really
Mm-hmm.
fascinating because you said
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, and then you use the word resilience, and it's like if something's vulnerable, it doesn't have a lot of resilience, easily
Hmm.
easily punctured, easily accessed. Like if we look at the word vulnerable, uh, exposed, open,
Mm-hmm.
and then resilient is like it can persevere, it can stand the test of time. Uh, so it's like I got, well, you use the word you become resilient, right? So maybe it's through like continued vulnerability that you eventually build up more and more resilience. But yeah, those two words stuck out to me,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, uh,
Hmm.
opposites, but they build the same thing, which is this like
Right.
authentic human. Anyways,
Yeah.
I, I'm weird about words. I'm weird about numbers, weird about
Yeah, no, no,
words.
no. I love that because I think it's so true. I think that when you break it down like that, I think it's fascinating too. Sometimes we use the same words over and over, and they become numb to us. And so the fact that you kind of just pointed those out, I'm just imagining. So yesterday I spoke at a business club and I shared my story. I connected. I talked about how I train and coach teams and I come in and help your team become more authentic to work better together and work better with your clients, right? So I'm talking
Mhm.
about this, but I'm sharing the depths of my story and what I learned along the way and how that's created me into someone who views people different because every industry is about people, right? I don't care what we
Right,
do. We are a people industry, right?
right.
And if we learn how to better connect with people, then we're going to learn how to better succeed and right how to have better relationships. And we can say we're relational. We can say, "Oh, I build a relational business." But what the reality is, we're really just super transactional because we don't actually seek to really get to know somebody. It's more about what can you do for me? What can I do for you? And so what I was trying to get people was to shift their mindset on, okay, what if I'm not saying airing your dirty laundry, that's not necessary, but
Yeah,
let's talk about what you've overcome. And sometimes you don't even know why you're resilient because we don't take the time to sit down and say, what are the hard things I've been through in my life? And don't just stop there because we're not victims, right? We've learned, we've grown from them. You go to the next column, and then it's not only what's happened to me, what did I learn from it? What can I only have learned from having an alcoholic dad? Do you know what it made me, Jimmy? Really sensitive to other people. Because every day I came home from school and wondered, I had to like feel out the vibe of my dad. Can I talk to him? Can I not talk to him? Is this going to be a fight night? Is this going to be a night where I'm going to walk on eggshells? Can I like tell him my good news? I was always keenly aware of people around me. And that has become a superpower later on that I don't think I would have had I not gone through that absolutely devastation season of life of dealing with an alcoholic parent. And so it's learning to shift those things. And so then the weakest moments bring the strongest things in our life, which is the both and of the vulnerability and the resilience, I think.
so if someone if someone wanted to be inauthentic, if
Mhm.
they didn't want to be authentic or their most genuine self, if they wanted to be inauthentic, what behaviors would they portray? Like,
All right. Well,
how would they
let's
behave?
let's rewind to 2005 to 2018 Jen. I was as inauthentic as they come. I'll just give you a story that really kind of shows what it looks like. When you are worried about what other people think, so much so that you lose yourself and you lose your own truth. So when I was 13, I my hair started falling out, and so naturally my parents took me to the doctor. I sat in a dermatologist's office with both of my parents, and the dermatologist said, "You need to take her to a psychiatrist. She's pulling out her hair." And they were like, no, 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 it's falling out, it's falling out. And I looked across the seats at both of my parents, and they were mortified at the thought that I could have something psychologically wrong with me. The reality was, this trauma that I had been through as a child was causing my body to try to control something. And it was actually a condition called trichotillomania, which is where you pull out your hair subconsciously as this coping mechanism, right? So what I actually needed, Jimmy, was I needed some behavioral therapy to just work through this. I don't know what's going on. But what actually happened is, in that moment, all I knew how to do was to take care of the people around me. And so I wasn't worried about what was best for Jen. I was worried about the peace in my home and the care for my parents. And so in
Mm.
that moment, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not pulling this out. I don't know what's going on. They end up taking me to Emory University. They diagnosed me with an autoimmune disease called alopecia areata, which is something that you don't control. And it was like this ticket out of jail card of like, now I have a label. I have a label that sits well with everybody. So now everybody's fine. Parents are fine. I'm fine. Everybody's fine. And my message to teenage girls was the fact that their beauty was not found on the outside, it's found on the inside. Your heart and your love for people, your service to others. And what it looks like to be inauthentic is to share a message like I shared with a story that wasn't authentic. Because how many more could I have connected to if I actually shared that the facts were, I didn't have this pretty little autoimmune disease that wasn't my fault. I had something that was caused by things that were out of my control, and I needed help. And in that help, then I discovered where our true beauty comes from. And so I lied on stages across America until I was going through a divorce, and I decided in 2020 I was I was done living the lie. And I'm like, once everything had dumpster fired, I'm like, no, 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 no. I know this may not sit well with you, but it's my truth. Like, it's what I'm actually going through. Just like it didn't sit well for people that my marriage wasn't that what it appeared to me to be. So my inauthenticity was to fake it till I made it, so to make other people comfortable. And it ultimately cost me my whole identity, cost me who I was, until that all burned to the ground. And then I got to say, hey, you know what? No, like, this is who I actually am. And this is what I've actually grown from. And this is who the struggles that I actually have. And what that does is make me human. And you're also human. And so let's do really amazing freaking things with our life and with all of it, not in spite of, but with it. And so I think if you are someone different in different rooms, that's a really good moment to look yourself in the mirror and say, hold on, like, why? Like, do you know how good it is, Jimmy, to have a group of friends that I don't have to pretend to be someone that I'm not? Like, they
Yep.
love Jen for Jen. It's such a great feeling. Because before, I'm like, if my friends in high school knew that I had an alcoholic dad and it was like crazy, what would they have said? Like, nobody knew the real me. And so I was just fake to all the people because I wanted life to appear so good. And
Yeah.
now I've found I wouldn't think that when I enter a room that you feel like, oh, Jen's sucking the room of energy because she's gone through so much crap. No. All of that has given me energy to give back to other people and give people hope that no matter where you are, it does not have to be where you're going. And that's what it looks like to have a wake up call that, am I living authentically or am I living inauthentic? And I'm overwhelmed with burnout because I'm not who I really am. Therefore, I'm living a life of a lie of who I really am to my core.
Well, this actually makes me think of have you read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah. Hmm.
It makes me think of what were the two people? There's drifters, and then there's I think does he just say like non-drifters? I feel like driven.
Yeah. Drifters not. Uh huh. Yep.
Anyways, yeah. For anyone that hasn't read that book, it's
That
basically
is a deep
Napoleon.
book. Yeah. You gotta
Yeah,
have set some time away. It will take you to another level. Yeah.
it's like
It's
Napoleon Hill
intense.
having a fake conversation or like a hypothetical conversation with the devil, and he's basically
Yep.
like, so if I was a drifter is somebody who just like they don't have a real purpose, they don't follow, they're like conformists, they'll like let life handle them instead of them handling life. And so if I was a drifter, like how would I like what would my marriage look like? What would my business look like? Would you be, anyways, yeah, I That reminds me of like that whole concept that like there's people who
Yeah.
have essentially like woken up. Like for you, it's like
Mhm.
it all burned down and all came crashing down, and it's like, well, I'm not going to save this thing because this thing was bad. I'm not going to go back to it.
Mm.
I'm going to
Right.
go. I'm going to like flip the switch. I'm going to be my most authentic self, and from that point forward, it was just like locked in.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, Jen, on the back end of your personal brand, you also have a business in insurance, and I'm kind of curious, like you don't have to name drop, and I don't know if you like legally can name drop, but do you have like a favorite client that you work with?
Oh, great question. I don't know that I have a favorite client. I do love that I jumped into networking, and so I actually get to meet people. So I can help groups and individuals. So there's a couple of businesses that I help, in these clubs I've loved. I get to sit down with their employees and provide individual, like, customized options. Like, and so I just love that. It's so relational versus, and that's really how I could even gotten into it. Because if you had asked me 10 years ago if I'd ever do insurance, I would have said you were absolutely nuts. The industry is scammy and slimy and all of that.
Yeah.
And so what I tried to do is bring as much as I can, bring the best products possible and help people really navigate those choices. So no, but I would say there's, I have two, Flying Wrench and Alpha and Omega Automotive, are two of my automotive people, and I love their teams. They were so fun to work with. The guys were hilarious. So yeah, just to get to be able to have a reason to intersect with these companies and help them out practically is really, really cool too.
So you really light up when it's like I'm like helping one person is great, but if I get to like work once and help a group of people, like that's
Oh yeah,
even better.
yeah.
Love that.
It's super
Cool.
fun for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
I definitely like that part.
Cool.
Mhm.
Um, okay, couple of like quick questions because we're coming up on our
Yeah.
time, but I have some like fun questions here at the end. You're
Okay,
mother
sweet.
of four, right?
I am. I
What
am. Yep.
which one of your kids has gotten in the most trouble recently? And if you're
Okay, that's
okay,
easy.
what did they do?
1,000%. Okay, so I have four kids who are could not be any more different. And I thought I was an amazing mom until I had number four. So Paxton is my little 9-year old, and he is all boy. I only grew up with girls. I didn't understand what boys could be like. So what did he do recently? Um, I mean, he has no respect for the fact that toys are like meant to play with but not to like break. Like he like loves to see like how indestructible things can be, and he like thinks that's super fun, and he's like into science experiments. And so I like went outside, and he's like throwing the razor scooter. Like, how far can he throw it into the sky? And I'm like, dude, this is about to end really bad. Like, either it's going to land on my car, the neighbor's car, or like break. And so that's probably, I mean, I'm like, dude, like he'll like save his money to buy a toy, and he like breaks it the day after, but he's like, it was so fun. I'm like, but toys are supposed to last more than 24 hours. So he is just, and he's not like mean about it. He just is all boy. And so yeah, so he is just Tasmanian devil in a 9-year-old form. So
I
yeah.
love that so much. First off, I also used to do that. I used to take the Razor scooter and flip it off the ramp and be like, out into the sky, and then, but dude, they used to make those things out
Okay,
of
there's
like
hope. So you
pure
turned out
steel.
okay. Okay, so
Yeah,
we're doing good.
I'm like
I'm
okay.
like, yeah,
Well, they used to make those
yeah.
things. I'm pretty sure they're made out of like aluminum now, and like aluminum's a little softer
Yeah.
of a metal, but like, dude, those things used to be rock solid. You used to get those things that hit you in the ankle, and it was like your foot's broken. It's over.
Right? Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
get the crutches.
ER
Um,
immediately.
okay, so we talked about a lot about you publishing. For someone who is maybe at this crossroads or maybe at their own pivot point, do you have like a snippet of encouragement or instruction for them? Like, what should they do? What is their best way to move forward in this idea of like publishing your face off?
I love it. So first of all, you're gonna have to go live, and here's why it's so so huge. People will get to see your eyes, your face, everything, the tone of your voice, and it like triples the amount of connection immediately. And it gives you this extra courage that you didn't think you have, because it is scary to press that live button. I will just say there's something about like making a story and then like posting it versus like pressing live and being like, boom, you're in the world. But here's what I love. And so if that's scary, I want you to remember this. And even if it's not, like, I think this is the best advice I was ever given. Every single time you hit record on that camera, I want you to think of one person, not just think of the sea of people, not think of your haters, not think of that one person from high school that you hope doesn't watch it. So you're like watching what you say. I want you to think of the one person who needs that nugget of wisdom that you're about to drop on your feed. And I want you to think of that person the whole time and stay focused, because that's going to help your message have clarity, and it's going to give your nerves like ease, because then it's not talking to a group of people. It's you're talking to one person who needs what you have to say, and it gives you purpose. And that to me changes everything. It becomes way less of this like me to a phone thing, and way more of like I'm actually talking to a person.
I love that. That is actually that is so smart. I actually know so many people who do they literally like print out like photos of these like avatars or like characters or whatever, and they're like posted on the wall and
Hmm.
like I always thought it was kind of silly, but like actually that makes a lot of sense the way that you put it. Okay, we're getting really close on
Yeah.
time. Last two questions. One, is there anything that's
Okay.
coming up kind of soon that you're really excited about?
Ooh, I am very excited. What am I? I mean, there's a couple of things. So I am looking to put on an event mid-year this year, my own event, which I'm super excited about. So stay tuned for more info on that. And I'm speaking at a lot of business clubs, and I'm loving that I get to bust through what they expect a business leader to speak on, and get to build those bridges of vulnerability. So I'm speaking to a couple of big ones. It's almost like once a month for the next 6 months. I'm at a different luncheon or a meeting or event or something. And so
Yeah.
for that, I'm excited to kind of push through and pioneer those kind of thought processes.
Okay. Awesome. I'm excited for that too. Now that you have announced it, like, give me a ticket. I don't. What do I need to pay?
Yeah,
I'm
stay
there.
tuned. Yeah.
Um, so cool. Okay, and then the last question is, what's the best way for someone to get connected with you?
Love that. So yeah, I'm on all the places. It's at I'm Jen Gray on Instagram and on YouTube. The podcast is Be Genuine with a J, so it's on all the places you have podcasts. I'd love for you to listen and connect there. Make sure you subscribe so you can get updates every week that they drop. And yeah, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, Jen Gray. But yeah, definitely, love to reach out, especially if you heard me here. I'd love to hear your story and get connected and see how I can add value
Awesome.
to you.
I love that. Okay, so basically all the social platforms, just look for Jen
Yeah.
Gray. You'll probably see something pink. If you see pink, that's probably her, right?
You found me. Yes, exactly. I make it
I
easy.
love it. Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. Okay, Jen, thank you so
Awesome.
much. The questions have been amazing, and the answers have been even more amazing. I'm actually like really blown away
You're awesome.
with everything we got to talk about today. So thank you so much for coming on, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you again so much. You're awesome, Jimmy.
Awesome.